Hello and welcome to VAA HiveMeet. I'm Paul Casera and we're streaming live to YouTube. This month we are hearing about all that's new from Apimondia Congress in September. More on that in a moment. A reminder that you can type your questions and comments into the YouTube chat box and we'll be monitoring these and bringing them into the conversation. We are in the virtual studio and I'm in Melbourne. Once again, we have three co-hosts, and we have Tino Corsetti and Andrew Wooden with us. Hello, Tino. Over to you.
Thanks, Paul. We're going to take a look at the heat map, the Varroa heat map for Victoria, and you'll see that there are a number of new detections. Just a reminder that this is a citizen science project. The positive and negative test results are being uploaded by beekeepers just like yourself. And by supporting this project, you can keep us all aware of Varroa as it spreads across Victoria. Varroa is coming to your area sometime soon, and HiveMeet is here to help you adjust to the new world of beekeeping with Varroa. I'd also like to acknowledge our sponsors, BeeQual and BeeTrace. They've developed quality assurance programs. BeeTrace is for smaller producers with fewer than 300 hives, and BeeQual is for large commercial producers. Now I'm going to turn it back to Andrew, who's going to introduce our guest for tonight.
Okay, our guest this evening is my very good friend Mike Allerton. Mike is should be well known to everybody because he's been to the last couple of our VAA conferences and made a major contribution to those through his insights and questions. Mike is a master beekeeper with the University of Florida, and he has also his claim to fame is that he's the vice president of the Amateur Beekeepers Association, and he's also their biosecurity officer. So he's got a wealth of knowledge, and we're very pleased to have you on board, Mike. So let's bring him onto the screen. Whoops, there he is. Hello, Mike.
G'day, Andrew. Good to be here.
Thank you very much for appearing, and we're going to hand straight over to you. So
Okay, launch straight in.
Let me find the next scene.
All right, thanks, Andrew. So Apimondia was in Copenhagen, as we all know, and we did a walk around last month. So this time I'm just going to give a few takeaways. It'd be nice to present everything that happened in those 5 days of presentations in multiple halls and also the vendors' halls, but I can't do that in a short session like this. So I'm just going to focus on a couple of things. Now, one of the lectures I went to was called the Bond Project on Gotland. Now, where the hell's Gotland, you might think? It's an island off Sweden, and it is far enough away from the mainland that no external bees can influence the results of a study. Now, the nature of this study was they populated the island with a set of bees 25 years ago, and the idea was just to study them and see how Varroa affected them over the time. Now, what they were expecting was a big drop-off. Now, unfortunately, the picture I took of the screen up here was a bit late, and it had an overlay on top. But to the left of that chart that you see on the screen there with the peach colour, that actually started right up high, just underneath the word "the" there. So, and that was in the initial stage. Now, over the course of from the period of 1999 to between 2001 and 2002 there, you can see the population had dropped dramatically down. Now, what they were hoping to see was just without any treatments, without any interventions whatsoever, genetically they would modify and recover and then rise in population again. But unfortunately, that's not what happened. As we see in that chart, they fell to a particular level. It didn't wipe out all the bees. It did wipe out a lot. Now, there's no question about that. Most of the hives just were decimated by a combination of Varroa and the viruses that came along with them. But what they were surprised about to find is that it just leveled out. So the colonies did manage to adapt to deal with Varroa over that time, but they never really fully recovered. They were never highly productive and growing again. They just sort of stagnated at that low level of population. And a part of the findings were that they sort of coexisted. They had a combination of effects that we're looking for to breed in now. So things like uncapping and leg biting and all of those sorts of things. But they also sort of adapted to get along with them rather than try to keep them under control. But they never really developed strong traits to rebound, as I said. So that's that first slide there. So they call it the Bond Project because it was basically the live and let die approach. And of course, you might have heard in Australia some people have been promoting that live and let die, just let all the bees die and then breed from the survivor stock. But what we've seen from this 25-year program is that you might not have much success long term in that. Now, I know Cuba is spoken about at times, but that's a talk for another time. That wasn't talked about at Appomondia. In this study, they sort of learned that you won't get a rebound. That's the main take of it. And it sort of is a wake-up call for people that might be thinking that they will go down the completely treatment-free approach. And I know there's a bunch of Australians doing that now, and they've done a little conference up in north of New South Wales with visiting treatment-free people. And I just wonder if that will work in Australia in this environment of high reinfestation rates for the first couple of years, or at least 2 or 3 years. So it might be something you can look at further down the track, but I'm not sure how it'll go in the short term. Now, the good, bad, and ugly is there's a growing trend, and this is all around the world. People want to get away from those chemicals, particularly in the countries and continents where they've been using chemicals for decades, and they keep losing them due to Varroa resistance, the chemical resistance in the Varroa, which is a real concern for here in Australia too. I know up here in New South Wales, Baverol is getting smashed because the label says you can keep supers on. Well, that just means we're not going to have it around as long as we hope it did. So again, getting back to the point here is that people want to move away from chemicals if they can, particularly after 30 or 40 years in some of these countries. But natural evolution is not necessarily going to work for you. It's not, well, we keep hearing the word silver bullet. It's not a silver bullet either, just like there is no silver bullets with Varroa. So this one is this slide. All of these slides are just photographs of the slides of a presentation given by the Swedish university there, and it just shows that if left to their own, the bees will not ever thrive again, or it certainly seems that way after 25 years without human intervention. Now let me see. And this comes up on this particular slide. It is saying it is possible, but it requires a lot of work. Now, if you think back to the integrated pest management system, certainly low level, we want to breed good stock to be able to deal with Varroa, but it means breeding, not actually just leaving them to their own devices. So they're saying it is possible to be successful at treatment-free beekeeping, but it requires a diligent and well-educated beekeeper to do that. Now, often Dr. Thomas Seeley is quoted as a pro treatment-free scientist, but I think he's often misquoted in that regard. So he has actually issued this warning over in the yellow there. I'm not sure you can see my arrow, but the warning still gets down to you need to be a diligent beekeeper the whole time. And certainly from personal experience, amongst our beekeepers up here in New South Wales, if you're not going to look after your bees will die. And there's very, very few surviving stock to hopefully breed from. But again, there's no, I think the bottom line there says easy is relative. Easy doesn't exist. If you think easy beekeeping is just leave them from to their own devices and breed from the stock, you're in for a hard time as you keep replacing the endless line of losses you'll have, which is going to be costly as well. Now, that's the Gotland project, the take on that. One of the other things that I really tuned into at Appomondia, they did this talk, and again I was closer up to the stage, so you've got these slides at a bit of an angle, is the Hive Master, and I know some people in Australia have shown some interest towards that. I did see it at the previous Appomondia in Chile 2 years ago, and this time they've brought it a lot further down the track. They are currently undergoing registration in the US and in some European countries, and they've also made the initial approaches to the Australian authorities as well, so which is unusual. Most people in the treatment field don't want to touch Australia because it is a long, very expensive process to get registered. And we are at this moment a very tiny market, so most people aren't going to see a return on their investment for many years. So it was good news to hear that they've made the initial approaches to our authorities too. So what is the Hive Master? It combines AI, artificial intelligence, not to be confused with artificial insemination. So artificial intelligence, sensors inside the hive, storage of the treatment chemical. Yes, we're talking about chemicals again. But as you see on one of the points down here, you're using 90% less of the pesticide than we do with the current crop of options. And by using sensors inside to monitor what's going on with the bees and uploading the data to AI to make a decision, it will actually do the treatments automatically, and the chemical that you install in this equipment will give you 1 year of treatment without you having to intervene. That sounds pretty attractive to me. And what it's doing is that 90% less pesticide. They do that by using this gas phase technology. So they're vaporizing the chemical in short bursts, short tiny bursts as required. So it waits for the bees to get home that night. So all the bees are in the box. So most chemicals that we deal with are only good for the phoretic mites. And this way they're getting every bee and therefore every mite that's on every bee. And then it continues to measure the situation to see how that treatment's going. So I think that's pretty exciting stuff. We don't know how much at this stage it will cost. Now, the initial program that they were running 2 years ago only used synthetic chemicals, but now they're running organics as well, and with good success. So this, I've lost my arrow. So they're focusing on just the minimal amount of chemical required to achieve the knockdown that we need in the dose. So instead of leaving a strip in there for 6 to 8 or 10 weeks, you're just getting these tiny microdoses, and therefore you won't get that chemical resistance risk that you would otherwise have of having strips leave in. I know up in New South Wales there's been boxes have been opened and there's strips still in there from months ago. So people aren't going back to remove the strips, and that is a risk for chemical resistant mites as well. So they've got science backing them up as well, not just in Israel where this team originates. They've taken it around to the States, in particular my favourite university, Florida, and for testing there, and got pretty good results. You're having a look at that 95% plus or minus 8%. That's still pretty good compared to, say, homemade oxalic acid strips that are typically getting 70 or less percent. But it is comparable. Now we're seeing this strip is with Amatraz. This slide is with Amatraz, but you're getting similar results with the organics. And because it's automatic, this is the proof of concept with the organic acids, getting over 90% efficacy, and of course with no harm to the bee colony. Any of the treatments that we currently have available, staying in for long-term periods, are agitating bees. I know more and more of the Victorian beekeepers will start finding this out for themselves, but we've had a couple of years of this in New South Wales, 3 years. Bees don't like chemicals sitting in the hives. Doesn't matter what sort, organic or synthetic, they don't like them. So we're continuing with research coming down here to fine-tune the system, and being AI-driven and software-driven, things can be updated as more data comes in. So the beauty of this thing is that it's very fast to install. So you can see on that picture on the right, there's what looks like a frame-sized device, and that's exactly what it is. That's where you put the chemical. A lot of the electronics, the monitoring is in that frame, and the part of it that sits on the outside, so you can look at the screen. It has solar charging, so the batteries are good for 12 months, the treatments are good for 12 months, and it's durable, as they say. And that solar and battery thing keeps it going for that 12 months for independence. You don't have to go around and recharge or change batteries and all of that extra work, but it is also expandable to hook up to other monitoring weight scales and audio, all other sorts of technology that's coming out these days. This can be updated or upgraded to accommodate. Now these slides I've taken directly from their website, and I invite you to go and check out their website to get into the detail of it. But I love this bottom line here, is that it's safe for bees and beekeepers. And I have done OA vaporization. It's a dangerous technology. You've really got to rig yourself up to protect your lungs and your eyes. So this, it's almost a set and forget, but you do get notification all the time. You've got your app that you can check to see what's happening at all times. And the AI will give you advice if it's detecting other conditions as well that will need your attention. From what I see of this, it wasn't specifically said. This means you don't have to go in. It's your choice. You don't have to go in and do your alcohol washes because the technology is doing the monitoring on your behalf. It's collecting more accurate data than you can by sampling 300 bees. So that could be attractive to those beekeepers that don't like killing 300 bees each time. So you can have this to operate in just one hive. If you're a backyard beekeeper with one or two, just have these in one or two and save yourself a lot of lifting heavy boxes to get in there and do your regular checks. With Varroa, without a device like this, certainly up here in spring and summer, I'm in the hives every 10 days or so, and I'm doing washes that often as well because I want to keep right on top of it. This could save the bees a lot of stress by simply not having to open the boxes as often. Or you can have a whole apiary full of these, and they have a gateway. They talk to each other, and they talk to the gateway up to 100 meters. So you'll have a one single 4G connection for a commercial operator. All of that communication and technology also incorporates a bit of security. So if someone's breaking in and stealing your hives, it's going to notify you of that as well. So this is the idea of the mobile app. Wherever you've got a connection, you can keep tabs on your bees. I know there's a whole bunch of other systems out there that do that too, and we currently have that available in Australia. But given this as an automatic treatment system, I just love the way this goes. If I could get my hands on one straight away, I would get it and start trialing it. And I've offered to the manufacturers that if they need some Australian trials, let me know. But it's also could be something that's open to trial that's in Australia, and perhaps VAA members could get in on that at some stage. Stay tuned. So that is, I'm not sure how we're going for time. I sometimes talk too much. Now this is another device which is a delivery system, the Nassenhyder evaporator. Now this is specifically for formic acid. Now I don't know whether your members have found how hard on the bees Formic Pro can be. Up here we've had a lot of brood losses, bee losses, and more importantly queen losses from members using Formic Pro. And it's not just down to being high temperature. We keep within the temperature range up to that 29.5 degrees, but it's still being harsh on bees. Now there's tricks of ways of getting it to be a little less harsh on the bees. It turns out that it's that first day of vaporing that causes most of the damage. And one of the tricks I learned from my club membership in a North American club is that they just put the strips in the freezer for up to 4 hours before they put them in the hive. So they're not going off label, they're just refrigerating or freezing them. And the effect of that is when you put the strips in the hive, they're still cold. That restricts the amount that it vapors off in that first day. And that's increasing the viability of the bees throughout the rest of the treatment period too. So it could be something to keep in mind. And also reducing, I know the label says 29.5 degrees. Try going for an upper limit of maybe 25 degrees, and that seems to be giving us a bit more success rate as well. But here we have a completely different delivery mechanism that's very common in Europe, and that is a bottle that you see there lying on its side there, connected to a device that has a wick in it. That bottle is dosed up with a 60% solution of formic acid, and the wick brings it out gently and gradually, and there's different wicks for different strengths that you would do. So you have a stronger or a wider wick if you're running a double brood box, and maybe a medium for a single brood box, and so on. So this is this is proved not to be as harsh on the bees as the other the Formic Pro that I previously talked about. So there are a number of other, I've gone off that, I forgot I only had one slide there. So on the Nassenhyder, it's been approved technology in Europe for quite a few years. Similar vaporization methods have been used even in independently throughout European countries of different makes and models. So a wicking method is at the key of it, and that's what slows it down. And essentially, the dosage is done when the bottle is now empty and you've done your dose for it. And over there in the stable conditions, they'll use that maybe twice a year. In our conditions, it's an option for further, if we could get this registered so that we could use it as a legal option, then it would work well in our heavy infestation period as well. So something to keep in mind, and we may see it legally in Australia at some stage in the future. I know they're using it in New Zealand with good success. And I think I'm not sure how I'm going with my time because I don't have a time. But I just wanted to give a shout out to a few people that I saw at Appomondia. Simon Mildren with his micro honey harvester. We saw that at the conferences, the VAA conferences. He's a Victorian, and he won gold for that device at Appomondia, which he was stoked. I think we couldn't bring him back down from the clouds when he first walked out of the hall with his medal around his neck. So congratulations, Simon. Kyle Atkinson, maybe not known here, he's a New Zealander, and he has the HiveGate device, and that seems to be going great guns in Europe as well, and that's a way of keeping robbing down. So I think I talked about it last month, but there he is online. So g'day, Kyle. I'd suggest anyone have a look at that for preventing robbing and other pests, wasps. Certainly I have a problem with European wasps up my way, so I'll certainly be trialling that myself. And finally, Paul Kuchera from Thermosolar Hive. He has some hives in Victoria undergoing trialling, and that's using, I'm a bit of a hypothermia zealot. I do Varroa controller hypothermia treatments on my bees, and occasionally use oxalic acid vaporization to do a top off. But this is a completely different way. It's the whole hive heats up by using solar. And Paul will be coming back to Australia. He lives in Europe these days, but his father lives in Victoria, so he'll be bringing more of these for more adaptation to the Australian environment. And that's it for me on this talk. If we have any questions, I would be delighted to take them on, even if it's not about what I've just talked about.
Thank you, Mike. Yes, we do have some questions, and just for your information, we've got about 35, 36 people online.
Excellent.
And yes, there's a number of questions come in. So let me start you off with the first one. And let's try this one. Do you know which organic acid they tested in HiveMaster? Was it oxalic or formic?
I think they're still undergoing with the formic, but they have concentrated on oxalic acid, and that's what they took to the University of Florida for testing. And that's the relatively new side. When they originally put it out a couple of years ago, it was only amatraz or synthetics that they were doing, and the demand is so high for organics with success. So yes.
Okay. Tino and Paul, are you there?
Yeah, Mike, I was wondering if this came up as a topic at the conference, but some regions like North America and Europe have been living with Varroa for over 30 years. And yet it seems like we really haven't made a lot of progress in finding a more permanent solution. Has the topic come up of whether we think globally there's been enough research, or do you get a sense that research is picking up now?
There seems to be, just talking to them generally, there are more and more scientists getting into it. There's more researchers now than there has been in the honey bee world than at any other time in history. They're going nuts, and there is an enormous amount of resources going into Varroa. Certainly a lot in developing Varroa-resistant bees. It's not just Australia doing that. That is seen as the ultimate goal. It's a tricky, slippery slope to try to nail down, and I think we've got some years to go yet. But on the chemical side, like the Hive Master, fine-tuning it and ensuring not doing overdosing or underdosing, anything that promotes that chemical resistant mite, and then turning into bombs. So yes, a lot of research going on.
And there's a question there. Was there an update on Naroa, seeing as we're talking about new treatments?
Yes, that's a misspell. It's no rower. They had a stand there, and they did do a talk. I I didn't get to that talk, but I've been to a previous talk of theirs, and I did talk to them at the stand. They're undergoing registration in the US and in Europe. They're not really touching Australia yet. Again, as I said before, it costs an enormous amount of money to register something in any of the authorities around the world. I had the conversation with them to say, well, why don't all of these authorities cooperate? And if a product is cleared by one, why not the rest of them sign it off? And that would save an enormous amount of time and cost and bring the product at a lower price to us, the beekeeper. But everyone, even within a state department, I know up here in New South Wales, the DPI are divided up into different silos and they all compete for funding. So I guess it's the same worldwide as well. But keep your eyes open. It might be a few years before we see it. It's another mode of action, of course, opens up the scope. I'm very excited about it as a product. Any more?
Yeah, there's some more. Paul, you've got one there?
Yep. Oh,
Wrong one.
sorry, this one. Yeah. So, question from Super Bexley, and this is, I believe, referring to the Hive Master. So, is it a mixed treatment that is used, and do you know how it perhaps meets IPM requirements?
Yeah, that's a really good question. From what I understand at this stage, it is a single chemical for the 12 months. But where they're guarding again, for the integrated pest management, a big part of that goal is to prevent chemical resistant mites. And the way they've circumvented that is the micro dosing. So only dose at the amount required to wipe out the mites when all the bees are in the box at the same time, not treating for weeks on end. So you're using a much smaller dose for a shorter time, effectively. And so, okay, you're not rotating treatments, but you're preventing that chemical resistant breeding in the mites by doing the microdosing as well. So it's a technology approach instead of what we've known for years. You've got to remember here, oxalic acid, when they first came out with apibioxol, they were terrified that that would become another chemical that they would develop resistance to. And in the end, well, not the end, there is no end. But so far, after 10 years on the market, not even one hint of resistance to oxalic acid. So things change with time and with research. On the topic of mixed, Emily Remnant, the professor at Sydney University, who appeared at one of the VAA conferences earlier, when was that, this year? I've had conversations with her at different times, and as a scientist, she's very interested in applying two different modes of action at once, because she said one chemical has a certain success rate at wiping out mites, and then she reckons the other chemical could take out the rest and therefore wipe out the risk of chemical resistance there. But of course, all the labels tell us we can't do that. So that would be off-label use and completely illegal. So it would be...
Just to interrupt you there, Mike, I've also heard someone argue that you can only kill a mite once and that therefore using two different treatments is actually wasteful. And so there's a counter view to that one that you're suggesting there.
Yep, I understand that.
From us to argue with Emily Remnant, but there are different views on this.
But you've got to remember, there is not ever 100% wipeout with any of the chemicals.
Sure.
So what her approach, or suggested approach, is if one of them didn't take them all out, then the combination of two might clean them out. So, and that's the research that needs to be done. So hopefully she'll get a grant and do that.
Right. Okay, here's a question that probably is one for us to answer rather than you. So, what happened to a varroa found on the Mornington Peninsula recently? It's no longer showing on the map. I think what happens here, I'd be 99% sure that it was a false alarm. We've had two or three of these already where people are going into BMAX and trying to enter a negative result and accidentally entering it as a positive, and then AgVic has to go in and delete it. And I'd be pretty sure that that's why it appeared. I did see it there on the map at Mornington, and then it vanished. And I'd be 99% sure that that's because it was a false positive, and that it's not currently in Mornington. So Melbourne still seems to be detection free at the moment, but don't hold your breath.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't hold my breath. And in my experience up here is that once you get that first detection, well, you've known you've had it for 6 to 12 months.
Mike, Appomondia famously stopped their honey competition because of adulterated honey.
Yeah.
Did you attend any talks, or were there any discussions about maybe global efforts to deal with this issue? And a second part of the question is, we know that there was a honey show, a global honey showcase. Did you taste any unique or interesting honeys that?
Oh, oh yeah, that was fantastic. Um,
Yeah.
it was mind blowing, and the taste buds were overloaded. There were so many different honeys, and even I was interested because I haven't tried a lot of these European and North American honeys, and so it was the opportunity to try them to see just what they're bragging about. And I got to say, I think ours is better. And we were represented by the good folk at I've gone blank on their name, where the conference was this year.
Beechworth?
Beechworth.
What was that?
Beechworth.
Beechworth Honey provided a whole range of Aussie honeys for that tasting. I think it went down pretty well. And but again, I was saying I really enjoyed trying all of the oddball one. I'd never tasted heather, and there were so many different heather honeys, and yeah, I enjoyed it. But I was surprised at how many different flavors that you get out of heather because they're grown in different countries, different climates, and so on. Um, and you name it. There's some. There were some native honeys from around the world as well. I'm not a native honey fan. I got to say, they tasted like they were fermenting to me,
Oh,
uh,
wow.
but that's just my taste buds. Yeah. On the question of talking about adulteration, this has been an ongoing thing. It was a big topic at the Chile Appomondia, endlessly talking about it. And it didn't seem quite as high on the agenda this time, but it was still a much talked about field. They're trying to narrow down testing to prove adulteration, pretty much the same as we're doing in Australia. I know that some of the tests they came up overseas tested our honey as adulterated, but I think that's been fixed now. How can you adulterate the best honey in the world?
All right, Mike. Look, thank you very much for your contribution. That was really terrific. And we've run out of time now for you, so we need to
Okay,
move
my
on.
pleasure.
But thanks, and stay on the line and listen to what's coming up.
Sure will.
Thanks again for that, Mike. Now it's time for our VAA update section, and we introduce Tony Willsmore.
Hi there. Is it, I'm Tony Willsmore. Is it, I'm one of the board members, and I represent Melbourne section. So I just want to quickly talk about some of the things that the board has been doing over the last short period, and give you an opportunity to not only appreciate that, but to also get involved as well. So one of the things that we have been working on is planning for what's going to happen once the Varroa development officers who are currently employed by AgVic, when that program comes to an end, and that should be coming to an end later this year. So there's a chance that there may be an extension into next year, but it will be very much at a smaller scale. So what we've been doing is working with AgVic to develop an infrastructure of Varroa specialists based in bee clubs, and they are the ones who are going to be the backbone for providing support to people when Varroa comes, and to help them through the changes and the workload that's going to come. So we had a recreational workshop last month, which was very well supported. There were representatives from just about every bee club in the state, and it was just great to see. And there was a lot of enthusiasm for what was going on. So that was great. So we also want to work with commercial beekeepers and to particularly help them help themselves. So there is discussion amongst commercial beekeepers as to what they're finding, what their practices have been, and so there can be a learning process there. So we're having we're planning to have a meeting in March next year, and the VAA will be facilitating that. We plan to have it in Swanpool. So watch this space, and so we hope that you get involved in that. The other thing that we've been doing is so there's been a lot of talk and support for bee clubs providing involving young people in beekeeping, and so a lot of training programs, to field days and such like are parts of their activities are involved in working with young people. You may know that the Victorian government has a child safe legislation, and there are expectations and requirements for non-profit organisations providing services to young people. So what the VAA has done, we've been a bit brave and developed a policy and some guidelines to support not only ourselves but also clubs in getting their systems right, so that they're compliant with the legislation, and so to provide good services to young people. So we've released the policy. It's been sent out to the branches, and soon it'll be sent out to clubs as well. So we have it on our website as well. And what we want is for the clubs to join with us and help make the policy better. So we realise that always first go policies are a bit clunky here and there, and need some fine tuning. And we're looking forward to having people joining us and getting this policy right better, so that we provide together good services, safe services to young people. And just on that, The VAA also has a recreational subcommittee, and the objective of that is to is to develop programs and thinking to support recreational beekeeping in the state. And we're looking for people to join the subcommittee to help shape the agenda and help with the programs that we hopefully put into place. So if you're interested, please contact me and join us. And we look forward to that. The other thing the VA has been doing is doing a bit of strategic planning. So we had a 4-day strategic planning workshop last month, and we're taking the framework that we have developed, and we'll be working on that to shape the workload of the VAA and what it looks like, and how we can partner with beekeepers across the state to make a vibrant industry and community. So look forward to discussing that further as we move along with that. Now here's a bit of a freebie or part freebie for commercial organisations that advertise in the Australian Bee Journal. We're currently advertising so that if you buy 6 months worth of adverts, so we will give you another 6. So there's a real opportunity for commercial beekeepers to save some money and provide a better advertising base for themselves in a time of hardship for everybody. So we've been thinking about those organisations who've been advertising in the Bee Journal, and we want to support you. Some events. So we currently have the Gippsland Beekeeping Field Day coming up. On Saturday the 15th. Please come along. It's going to be an exciting time. And they always put on a good show up there. So there will be some videos up there as well. And it should be a good day. So there's been quite a bit of advertising about this, and the website there is you get more information about that. Also in Kyneton, there's the show, and at the show, the VAA and Wood End Bee Friendly Society will have a stall. So there'll be some honey sales there. We'll be having an observation hive and an opportunity to talk about beekeeping in general. So please come along. I hope that's all been interesting for you, and I take that away.
Thanks very much, Tony. The VA has been busy as usual. Next month, we have Joe Reardon, who's coming in to talk to us about something called beelining. Beelining is a traditional technique for locating feral bee colonies, and this could become a very handy skill when varroa reaches our area in eliminating potential mite bombs in feral hives. So we're looking forward to that talk next month. Thank you to everyone for participating tonight, and especially to Mike for a great update and reporting from Denmark. HiveMeet is here to support Victorian beekeepers as we all learn to live with varroa, and we look forward to seeing you next month.